Hi everybody, and welcome to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. In this video, we begin with a post from the subreddit Relationship Advice, where OP has some trouble managing her jealousy. Then we move on to a great malicious compliance and finish up with some spicy petty revenge. And as always, if you want to move around the video, you can just use the timestamps. Now, let's get started with that first story. This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice, and it's by user ThrowArraySev. I, 24 female, feel uncomfortable with a relationship my husband, 32 male, has with our neighbor, 31 female. I'm 24 female. I am married to Brad, 32 male. We've been married for a year and have two beautiful 3-year-old boys together. We moved into our house 2 years ago in Brad's hometown. About 2 months ago, a new family moved in, a couple with their young son. They were walking around the block and we were outside. Brad immediately began waving at the wife and saying hi. She ran up and it turned out that the two of them were best friends back in middle school. Christina, 31 female, is married, 36 male, and has a son who is also 3 like my twins. Her husband works at a nearby base and I'm in the medical field. Christina is a stay-at-home mom and Brad works from home, but the nature of his work is usually that he has a certain amount of projects to get done every day and then he's done. He's generally up at 5 every morning, so he usually begins his projects then, and by the time the twins wake up, he usually finishes all of his work, though he sometimes works more after they go to sleep. Christina and Brad have begun hanging out a lot during the day since the boys get along so well. They do a lot of fun things together, hiking, going to the park, etc. But also everyday things like going to the grocery store together. They say it's easier because the boys keep each other entertained. I've voiced my worry that Brad is just making Christina watch the kids the whole time, but both they and the kids have confirmed it's not Brad dumping all of the responsibility on her. Last weekend, Christina's husband and I were both available, so we all went for a hike in a spot that the boys really liked that they went to a few weeks ago because at the end was a small waterfall. As we were hiking, it was apparent how close Christina and Brad had gotten. He had told me how close they had been in middle school, that they had drifted apart in high school because they hung out with different friend groups. Brad has told me that they get along great, that he's happy they've rekindled their friendship. But I hadn't realized how close they were. They have inside jokes. They go to the grocery store together with the boys. Brad has even begun cooking dinner with her and has it waiting when I get home. Christina seems very in love with her husband. They invited us over for a barbecue the other night and they are both very in love. They're talking about when they're going to have another baby, etc. I'm just kind of uncomfortable that my husband is this close to another woman. I don't know if I would be like this if my husband was this close to a man, but my husband doesn't have any male friends he's this close to. It doesn't help that Christina is absolutely beautiful. She's smart and talented and way funnier than I am. I don't know if the jealousy I'm feeling is misplaced or not. I don't know if I should talk to him about this or not. I feel like I should add that I definitely don't think he's cheating. They invite me and Christina's husband to come with them all the time if we're not working. She's really open and kind to me, so I don't think there's anything fishy going on other than the friendship. Well, OP, you mentioned you feel jealous, but you also mentioned a lot of stuff that kind of points towards not having to be jealous. Your concern is understandable, but if you don't think he's cheating, they're always inviting you guys for whenever you can join, are you just having a problem with them hanging out? I mean, Christina helps your husband taking care of the kids. They also have dinner for you when you get home. I mean, that's a pretty sweet deal, right? Apart from them rekindling their friendship from school and keeping each other company in the afternoons, which I admit, of course, it can ruffle up some insecurity on your part. But with everything you're saying about your relationship and her relationship, it would seem that it is jealousy that is misplaced. I would say try to work through it, maybe get some help with a counselor or something like that. And when you do talk to your husband and share your feelings, I would just be careful that it doesn't sound like you're accusing him. The way you present the story kind of hints that you think something's gonna happen or something is already happening. But at the same time, you know that he's definitely not cheating and you guys have a proper relationship and so does she. So I would just keep an eye out for that. What about you guys? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they had to say. PM in Geneva says, your jealousy might be misplaced, which would obviously be a good thing, but that doesn't mean it's unreasonable. Sometimes we're just insecure and that's okay. I bet you have so much going for you and yet you're comparing yourself to her. You're afraid, you're self-conscious. That's fine, it happens to all of us. But who better to prove you wrong than your husband? Tell him how you feel. Don't come in with the intention of blaming or suspecting. Just be honest about how you feel. Hopefully, he will give you the reassurance that you need. After that, it might also help to get to know Christina a bit more. Building a friendship with her might also help you understand and see things from her point of view. Plus, when you get to know someone, it often shows that they also have their vulnerabilities and insecurities, just like we do. BC1411 says, I guess I'd agree with everyone saying talk to him about it, but in all honesty, this doesn't seem like a problem. If I moved back to my hometown and ended up living next to one of my close friends from primary or secondary school, I'd be exactly the same, regardless of gender. You're sure there's no infidelity? There's no problem here. Maybe try to organize a girls' night out with her though, so you have your own bond separate from him? Demobeck says, absolutely you should talk to him about it. These feelings will only eat away at you if you let them fester. This is more than likely 100% innocent and your husband doesn't realize how it's coming across. There's no harm in saying you feel it's developing a bit further than you're comfortable with. And OP responds, I absolutely don't think there's any infidelity going on. I just feel so weird that he's that close with another woman. And now a bonus comment with a very interesting response from OP. Usual Fuel 5683 says, I hate to be this guy, but he's 32 and you're 24, and you're already married with 3-year-old twins? How old were you when you met, got married and had kids? And OP responds, lol, well, it's kind of a funny story. He actually thought I was a lot older than I was when we met. I was 19, he was 27, but I actually was using a fake ID because the event we met at was 21 plus. Apparently, one of his friends asked one of my friends how old we were, I wasn't aware of this, and she said 24 then. Oops. So we hit it off and went out on a few dates before he found out my actual age, and by that time I had gotten pregnant, even though we were using condoms and everything. And it was definitely a surprise for him, but he wanted to be involved in the baby's life, so we started officially dating. Unfortunately, we had a miscarriage in the second trimester, but not long after that I got pregnant with the twins and he proposed. We got married about a year after the twins were born. Party face. Okay, well the community thinks that there's nothing here that OP should worry about too much and that she needs to talk to her husband. Additionally, I don't know about you guys, but I really don't know how I should feel about that response that OP just gave to that last comment I read about the age difference. I mean, it sounds like a meet cute story. I just don't like that she lied about her age or didn't come clean about her age, because lying by omission is still lying. If that is what happened. Anyways, let's move on with the update to see what happened after this. I'm going to start with what happened when I talked to my husband before I mentioned some other things. I sat down with my husband and I told him that I felt very uncomfortable with his close relationship with Christina. He seemed totally taken aback. I told him that it was just too much. All of the time they spent together, hiking, cooking together, grocery shopping. And he was like, but aren't you happy I'm doing those things? I thought you wanted me to cook and do the shopping and do fun stuff with the boys during the day. And I was like, I do, but it doesn't always have to be with Christina. So he said that having Christina around helps because the boys entertain each other and having an extra set of hands and someone to keep him company helps. I told him I understood that, but I really didn't think it was appropriate for him to be spending this much time and getting this close to another woman. So then he was like, well, do you not trust me? Do you think I'm going to cheat on you? And I said, no, I just thought it was odd and I couldn't help the way I felt. And I just worry that if we had a fight or something and he was upset, he would turn to her and just put them both in a bad or tempting situation. So he really latched on that and was like, do you think I'm going to cheat on you? And I told him no, but I think he spends too much time with her and I would just appreciate it if he didn't spend so much time with her. They were supposed to come over last night and he was like, "So you want me to cancel?" And I said no because the boys were excited. So Christina and her husband came over and my husband was super off the entire night and barely spoke to her. I pulled him aside a few times and asked him to stop acting so weird, and he snapped at me and told me that he didn't know what I wanted him to do. Christina definitely noticed something was off, but she didn't say anything or draw attention to it. After they left, I asked my husband why he acted so odd the entire night, and he got kind of upset again. He told me I didn't understand. He was stressed from work and taking care of the boys. I told him I totally understood and I know he's doing a lot, I just don't think he had to spend that much time with her. So he was basically just like, "Okay, fine, I won't hang out with her then." And I was like, "No, that's not what I want." But he was like, "You're clearly uncomfortable with this and you wouldn't have brought it up if you didn't want me to stop, so I'll just stop." So I told him don't make it weird. The boys will just have play dates where she'll drop them off when I'm home or I'll drop them off there so they can still hang out, and he's just going to tell Christina he's busy with work. So ultimately, I'm glad he saw where I was coming from in the end, even though I don't think he entirely understands why I feel the way I do. As for the stuff about our ages, he was shocked when he learned my age, but we worked through it just like we worked through this, and our relationship was stronger for it. Nobody was lied to or baby-trapped. It was just the way our relationship progressed. OP's edit. To whoever sent this post to my husband, I hope you have a really great time butting your nose in other people's marriages. You're a terrible person. Okay, OP. Well, you handled it, but I think you handled it in the worst way possible. You weren't clear at all. I wasn't clear reading your post. I honestly do not understand what you want. I thought I did after reading your first post, but now the way you handled it and the conversation you had with your husband, it sounded like you were all over the place and very confusing. I don't want you hanging out with her, but don't make it weird. Even though you've been hanging out with her a lot, just disappear from her life. Also, I don't get your edit. What's the problem with your husband reading your post? You've already talked to him about all of this, haven't you? Regardless of all of that, OP, I hope you're able to properly deal with your jealousy issues and that it doesn't create any problems for your marriage. Now, let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliant, and it's by user Meow Schwitzenderr. Won't let me plant sunflowers? Fine. The story happened a couple of years ago, but it's my favorite lawyer story, and I hope you enjoy it. A client walks into the office and asks for a contract review. He then hands over an HOA contract. Before logging through the whole HOA contract, I asked him what he was hoping to accomplish. "They want me to dig up my sunflowers." Your sunflowers? "Yes, I planted a row of sunflowers outside my house. They pranced by and said that sunflowers are not allowed per the contract I signed. So I want you to tell me if that's true or not." Sir, before anything else, I need to tell you that this will likely be an hourly fee bill. HOAs are notorious for dragging things out, so these could quickly become expensive sunflowers. "I don't care. This is America, and I should be able to plant sunflowers, damn it." Still thinking he wasn't that serious about sunflowers, I asked for a 3-hour retainer. He immediately pulled out a checkbook and paid for 4 hours. So I buckled down to review the alleged anti-sunflower clause. And just for reference, the sunflowers he wanted to plant were really big, 5 feet, and all along the front of the house. It was a very substantial amount of sunflowers. The contract did indeed contain a clause with a very thorough list on which plants were and were not allowed to be planted. The list had just about every plant I could think of in alphabetical order. Think apple, banana, cauliflower, dill, sunflowers included. Corn was not included, which becomes very important later. Quick legal point. If you write "no dogs allowed," it is normally assumed that you are talking about all dogs generally. If you write "no labs, golden retrievers, or poodles allowed," it is normally assumed that all other dogs are allowed. Sometimes a not great attorney will write up a super long list to pad hours, read "charge more," instead of just writing "no plants without prior approval" or something. I called the client back in for the bad news. In explaining the above legal point, I let him know that the HOA got a raw deal from whoever drafted the contract. No can do on the sunflowers, but if it makes you feel any better, they were probably overbilled by whoever wrote this contract. Pretty shoddy work too. They even forgot to write down corn, but they included nonsense like dragon fruit. So, yes to corn, no to sunflowers? I really didn't check the contract for corn, but it's not prohibited in the plant section, so probably? Excellent, that'll work. I thought he was oddly happy with bad news. Then 2 or 3 weeks later he came in with a picture of his house surrounded by huge sunflowers. What happened? This guy drove out to the country and bought obnoxiously large and ugly corn stalk. He promptly planted them where the sunflowers had been. When confronted by the HOA, he told them, paraphrasing, to suck it, the contract lets me plant corn. Then after some negotiation, he agreed to take the corn down in exchange for permission to plant sunflowers. Now we are friends. He is still a great client and he lives surrounded by a ridiculous moat of sunflowers. This was beautiful, OP. Thank you for sharing. Malicious compliance with legal advice. Can it get any better than that? Now let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge, and it's by user ASDF QWERTY27. Roommate was stealing my marked leftovers, made a chocolate cake with habanero peppers, labeled it with my name, and wrecked his world. The title is pretty straightforward, but I'll elaborate. My old college roommate didn't know how to cook or do dishes, and didn't go food shopping much. This led to him eating my food, especially my leftovers, as those were prepared meals. I would use my leftovers to meal prep for the week and told him to stop as it was expensive as well as inconvenient. The behavior did not stop and he actually seemed to be eating more of my food out of spite. To punish him, I baked a chocolate cake with habanero peppers and mixed the frosting with wasabi. I labeled it with my name and a bold "Do not eat" and waited. This guy has a very low tolerance for spicy foods, so I thought he would take one bite and quickly realize the error of his ways. About 2 days later, he and a couple of his friends got really drunk while I was at work and decided to dig into my food. Somehow, they ate about a third of it before realizing it, and when they inevitably went to throw up from overdrinking and eating spicy foods, they got hit by the cake a second time. Don't know for sure, but it couldn't have felt good coming out the back end. When he asked me why I made this monstrosity, I told him I found a chocolate habanero recipe online that I wanted to try. He stopped eating my cooking after that. Wow, OP, that is some revenge. I once made the mistake of eating habanero peppers without knowing how spicy they were. I do like spicy a lot, but this was a lot more than I could handle at the time. So I'm very sure your roommate had a horrible time. But he learned the lesson, and that's a win for you. Thanks for sharing, OP. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I certainly did reading them to you. So if you did, then go ahead and give the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and become a member of our Discord community that just keeps growing and it is fantastic. And like I said in the beginning of the video, all of the relevant links are in the video description below, so be sure to check them out. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys enjoy this content, so thank you once again. And having said all that, I will see you guys in the next video.